This is a Harvest wheat sheaf, a loaf of bread traditionally made as a centrepiece for the Harvest Festival in the UK. Today I'm going to show you how I made this loaf of bread. Bread, the staff of life. Humankind has baked bread for maybe 15,000 years, and not much has changed. Yeast, water and flour. And I feel a real connection. Around here farm distant members of my family. This combine is working land harvested for centuries by hand. Late summer fields, once busy with horses, dogs, men, women and children. It really wasn't that long ago, times that have only recently slipped from living memory, that teams of men swept down fields of cereals with their long-bladed scythes. Perhaps the golden age of pre-industrial farming. Corn harvesting was a mighty effort before autumn's winds and rains to gather grains for milling into flour. Truly a race for life. And it was a tumultuous time on the land. Bitterly hard work and sweat, followed by merriment, feasts, dancing and drinking. Harvest was home. Just look at the smiles in this harvest picture taken by my father in the 1960s. And since pagan times in Britain, thanks have been given for harvests, for grains, fruit and vegetables, and bread was at the very centre of celebrations. And that most vital link between humans, nature and the land still courses through my veins. And that's why I bake bread. Here are the ingredients for one Harvest sheaf. I first add all dry ingredients, then the water. This is an easy dough to make and handle and can be quickly formed by hand. A few minutes of kneading produces a non-sticky ball of dough. I first make the base of the sheaf using about 25% of the dough, returning the rest to the bowl and covering. A sheaf might take between 1 and 2 hours to assemble, so always keep the unused portion of dough covered to prevent drying. I roll the dough to about 4mm thick and big enough to cover a flat baking sheet covered in baking parchment. I am using an upturned pizza stone that is 30cm by 40cm. I cut a mushroom shape using a dough spatula. For consistent results, a paper template can be used to mark the outline of the sheaf. I start to build the sheaf by making the stems of wheat. I use another 25% of the dough and roll out long strands, roughly 3 to 5mm in diameter. Laying them to one side allows the gluten to relax and making final shaping a little easier. I brush the stalk of the mushroom with water. It needs only to be damp, and then assemble the stalks. Using dough offcuts, I make 2 strands about 6mm in diameter and plait them together. This resembles the twist of straw traditionally used to bind the wheat sheafs. These are laid across the wheat stems and the ends tucked under the stalk. Offcuts are used to make a loose knot and the stalk is finished. The remaining dough is used to make the wheat heads. I cut pieces of dough about 20mm by 6mm and roll into a short cigar shape, and then cut the ears using scissors. Once again, the dough is dampened with water. Then I begin to assemble the wheat heads, working from the outside inwards. When the wheat heads are in place, I use scissors to emphasise the ears. Perhaps the most loved feature of the wheat sheaf is the Harvest mouse, which is made from the final few grams of dough. I roll out the tail and then the body, using cloves to represent eyes, scissor cuts for ears and haunches. Finally, an egg is whisked to make a wash and carefully brushed over the entire sheaf. The wheat sheaf is baked at 180 degrees centigrade in the centre of the oven for around 30 minutes. Once baked, nicely golden and cool, this bread is edible. But if it's to be used for non-edible display, reduce oven temperature to around 120 degrees centigrade and bake for another 5 to 6 hours, checking it regularly. To preserve it permanently, apply clear varnish to the entire sheaf front and back. The wheat sheaf, an iconic and enduring celebration of the harvest.